Should we even have a start like, hey everybody, I don't even, I feel weird every time I say like, hey
It's
everybody,
just
this is
because you
Ivan.
don't like introductions or like putting the focus on yourself. Like, hey, my name is blah blah blah. Like whenever you have to introduce yourself the first day of class, and you're like,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of introductions.
yeah, that's all it is.
Let's start it there. Let's start it here. Again. All right, that'll pick up on the cameras in the sound. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of introductions, and every time we'd have hello everybody, this is an ongoing conversation, just catch on. And whenever, yeah, just go with it. So whenever we would have like a college, like a work event or something like that, where we'd meet like career folks and stuff like that, they teach you to have that 3-second elevator,
Right.
what do you call it, elevator to pick or elevator?
Yeah, like something to put yourself like to make
Yeah,
yourself.
it
What
ha-
is it like? What's the word? What's the word?
Elevator pitch. Yeah.
There you go.
And so everybody has their elevator pitch, and for 97% of the people, it's hello, my name is Jaime. I go to TSU. I'm a accounting major, and this
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. And so you tell out your whole freaking story like if it was a resume on road,
Yeah.
And that sucks. Like I hated doing that.
I think you've
So-
just done it so much or had to do it so much, you just like over it.
No, I came up with another one. I didn't want to use that.
Really?
Yeah. Let me remember what mine was. It was almost like a straight up sales pitch, like I was selling a product, because you are selling
You're the
yourself.
product.
I am the product. I would tell them,
Borderline hooker.
yeah. I would say something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm Jaime. I'm in accounting, but I like public speaking." And then this was very cheesy. I would say, "Give me numbers, give me an audience, I get your results," and that was it. Yeah,
Ay,
and that was it. That was it.
TM. That's cute.
And I
you have
used-
a slogan.
Yeah.
Really?
And I used to get quite a bit of interviews with that because I mean it's catchy, it's different.
Right.
Yeah, different.
And they're
Yeah.
like, this guy looks confident. Okay, let me maybe give him a call back.
Yeah, if you work for like Chevron and you're right here in one of these work fairs, I mean, you've heard just about every student come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm Jeremy Smith, and I'm an accounting major. Work for University of Houston, a third year. I'm about to be a junior."
Like how many accounting majors can you meet before they all just blur?
The exact phrasing of it, it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
And at some point, that's just going over your
Yeah.
head. And so if you hear an actual sales pitch from a freaking commercial,
You're like, wow, he's so different.
not just that, but you remember it more.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Stand out of everybody that's
Yeah.
basically repeating it with the different lines of their name and their major.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so that was my trick for getting some interviews.
That's so funny. I've never had to really do that. I mean, my biggest experience is like, hey, like at a job interview, just a regular one, like, oh, my name is Gabriella, whatever. Like, this position interested me because of blank, like whatever. But I'm really good at talking to people. Like we've talked about this before. So I've never had to think about it. I just kind of like see how the conversation goes. And I tend to play off how the other person is. And just, I don't know, it always tends to go well.
Have you gone to job fairs before? Like proper job fairs, everybody's dressed up in a suit,
Honestly,
ladies are wearing
I don't think
formal.
I've ever gone to a job fair.
No?
I don't think I've ever needed to because I'm still in college and I'm not like marketing myself. Like as an education major, it's a little different. Like you can
Oh,
still
yeah.
go and see,
Yeah.
but like most of the people that go are like accounting, business, like technology, engineering, and then education is just like, well, you
STEM
kind of
and
know.
finance, yeah.
Exactly. Like education is a little different. Like you network when you do your student teaching your last year of school. Like now I'm meeting all these schools and like I'm basically interviewing every time I go to a different school. Like that's what they say. So
Yeah.
you're interviewing as you're doing your student teaching, and then at the end of it, a job gets offered to you or a few. Like that's technically how it works for us.
I remember our professor of education, because she had a very specific field of teaching, especially in like high schools, public high schools, because just about everything is, the STEM and then the literal arts and that sort of stuff.
Liberal arts. You said the literal arts.
Literal arts.
You did.
It's okay.
I was thinking of literary.
Yeah,
like,
the literary arts. You mean English? Anyways,
No,
dale.
so she used to tell us that the way she got her job at my high school is they went to a fair where there was a stage and everybody was in line, and the different principals and directors and HR people from each school would be there, and you'd walk and they'd give you your 10, 15, 20 seconds to introduce yourself, say your field of study, and be on your way, and that's how she got approached. So
Yeah, I've never been put in that position. I don't know if maybe things are a little different, especially with like COVID and everything. But as far as I know, you don't really meet the people you're gonna work with unless you go to their schools directly. Like they don't go out and recruit because there's so many people applying for teaching jobs just constantly. Like it's a constant stream. Like
Really?
you really don't need to like sell yourself. Like you're pretty much needed somewhere,
Yeah.
Like so it's not as hard to find a job. I mean, I don't know about now, but at the time, 2 years ago, it was just like go to a school. Oh, if you like it there, and if they like you, you make a good impression, you're pretty much hired. Or they're like they keep you on like a list, like, hey, we'd really like you to work here if a position opens up. Like it's not really that big of a deal, I guess. At least not that I've seen. I could be wrong, but my personal experience, I haven't seen anything like that.
That's interesting. So that's probably why we had a lot of teachers that like drove in from the Woodlands, and the Woodlands is a place that's like an hour away from our high school. The teachers would drive in from pretty far.
We had some teachers driving from Galveston.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's crazy. If you don't get hired somewhere, you'll get hired somewhere else.
Yeah,
for sure.
like literally, like there's no shortage of education jobs. Like that's one of the jobs that you'll always be around because you'll always need somebody to teach others. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going down the picking line too. Like they'll go to the high class schools too first to see what they can get.
That's the plan, to like go to the schools with more funding
There you
first,
go.
and then like trickle your way down if you can't find anything up there. But that's like the educator's dream is to get good funding so you can do what you need to do without having to worry.
I feel bad for our music teacher from middle school because he got put in.
Oh my God.
It wasn't a terrible school, but it wasn't the best, and there was definitely not an emphasis in the arts,
Yeah.
So he got it pretty bad.
He did his best with what we had, though.
He did his best with what we had and the students we had, because they used to make him rage like for fun,
I felt bad because I remember us making him yell so bad his face would get red. And then now I'm like in the music education field and I'm like, oh my God, everything we've ever put him through times
It's
like
coming.
100. Yeah, it's coming. Like it's just looming over my head. Like as soon as you graduate, you're going to meet those kids and you're going to feel bad. You're going to want to email your old band director like, I am so sorry.
Yeah, but he left and he ended up going to a pretty good school that
Yeah.
had a lot of funding for it, which was good because he was amazing.
Yeah, he was a really good band director.
He had that ability. What was it? He was tone perfect, or like where
He was
he had
like-
perfect pitch.
perfect pitch.
There you go. Yeah, he had that. Because I remember we would tune the timpanis like, with no problem. Let me just
Yeah, without even like touching a keyboard or anything once. I wish I had that. It's super rare.
You know who I feel bad for? Science teachers. There was not one science teacher that got any kind of respect.
I don't remember our science teachers very much up until we got to high school. Like I remember blurs because all we ever did was watch movies and talk and make a mess and poke at dead pigs, and I don't even know.
We dissected pig fetuses.
And then cry and watch 1,000 Ways to Die.
Yeah.
Ways to die.
Yeah. Did she put it on? It was for science, it was for educational purposes.
It was also towards the end of the school year, so it
Really?
was.
I feel like we did that the whole year.
Really?
Maybe that's the only part I remember about the science classes.
You only remember 9th grade then. Like everything you just mentioned happened in 9th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I guess I only remember 9th grade.
Oh man, no, I had a lot of fun in science, but because we didn't do anything, I mean, not that we didn't do anything, we learned, but it wasn't anything interesting, like the different types of rocks. Like, how is that useful? Oh,
Just
good.
shit on all the geologists.
Oh, it's igneous. Okay, good. Oh, I thought my life was gonna change.
No, I like doing like the carbon dating, like learning about how they found out like if fossils were this old or whatever. We never got to actually do it, but I know we learned about it. and like learning about Punnett squares was kind of interesting.
No,
Mostly.
you have to get really far into like the field of geology to start understanding carbon dating, you know.
Right.
And so if you're just offering introductory lessons, what do you have to teach kids? Like,
Yeah, you just set things on fire, and then it's like, okay, you got your class interested.
yeah, learn about the different layers of the earth. That was the main thing.
Yeah.
We have the crust, and then the mantle, and then the inner.
It used to be my favorite subject in elementary school because all we did was like science projects, which were just either setting things on fire or like putting things under a microscope or looking through a telescope or like using magnifying glasses, like anything that was like you use new tools that like I've never seen before. I was like, okay, like I'm a scientist, you know. And then you get to high school and like middle school and you're like,
And nobody cares anymore.
yeah, you're doing math and science. Like I didn't sign up for this. I wanted experiments. I wanted playtime.
At that point, it stops being fun.
Yeah.
And it starts becoming algebra.
Yeah.
I remember that about physics, that just about everything he thought was a formula. And I mean, it's fun. And this was like college physics. And it's fun, but it's not useful every day.
To us, to our specific careers, because
To
somebody
our
uses
specific
it.
careers.
Those people that build like freeways and stuff, like
You better know
they
what you're
use
talking
all of
about.
that. Roller coasters. That was the most interesting thing. That people that build roller coasters use physics, and I was like, wow, I want to learn. And then after you had to memorize like more than two formulas, I was like, nah, it's not for me.
That's too much.
That's too much.
That's one too many formulas.
But now ask me how many lyrics to songs I know. Bunch of
yeah.
useless information that I've
Useless.
memorized.
The one course that I really liked always was history.
Really?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't like the quizzes part of it.
Yeah.
Because you had to memorize like little minuscule things, like who was the name of the guy who rode around telling people the Reds are coming.
What was the name of the third horse in the battalion?
John Revere. See, why do I know that? When have I said his name other than in 8th grade
Yeah.
U.S. history? Like,
I've always been so annoyed of history because I've wanted to learn the history of like my country. So like it just annoyed me to learn another country. So like out of spite, I just didn't really pay attention. And then also the teachers weren't really that good, except for like one or two teachers I ever came across that actually made it fun to learn.
really?
One of them was in middle school. She showed us like a rap video of like the presidents or something. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, wow, this is a cool teacher, and I learned a lot.
That was in 8th grade.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're talking about the same person.
It
I really
was the
liked
song
her.
"Too Late to Apologize."
Yes,
with rap.
yes. And I was like, wow, this is learning. This
Do you
is
know?
real
Do you know what we're
learning.
talking about? They made a "Too Late to Apologize" parody of the signing of the Declaration of
Yeah,
Independence.
that's what it was.
I don't remember the lyrics. I had it memorized. It was a good song.
I went back home and I played it again because I liked it so much.
Yeah. So like, always give us tea and whatever.
Yeah.
It was goofy.
I liked it though.
But specific points of history, it's boring. You know, it's no fun. You know.
Yeah.
That's more towards the modern history because you have to get nitty gritty about every month of a year, and you know things start
Right.
happening more closely.
And then it just feels like it's not relevant to you, even though it all kind of connects. Like, if you don't get really deep into it, you're like, oh, this has nothing to do with me. That was so long ago. Like, why do I care? You know? And then you realize that things that have happened, like, hundreds and thousands of years ago are still happening. And then you're like, oh, it is relevant to me, you know?
Yeah. Are you trying to segue into our conversation?
We can, yeah.
See what we did there? Today we're talking about history.
I would have gotten away with it, too.
If I hadn't
And
pointed it
called
out.
me out on it.
The standards here are impeccable. They're top of the line.
That's why we need the wine, okay?
No, I'm a fan of history like back in the day because it's more important human behavior than who John Revere's wife was, you know? So,
Yeah.
Why do we scream? Why do our alarms sound like birds, like in fire alarms in buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot more relevant than, to find out the name of the Santa Maria that
The
Columbus
freaking-
wrote.
Useless information.
Really.
Yeah, so we wanted, we thought that if we want to have this podcast where we're just spitting out information and like spitting out our ideas and our opinions on things, we might as well establish what our foundation for, you know, human behavior, for history, for you know, that sort of thing is. And so we wanted to start something simple, you know,
Right.
something small, the beginning and end of all human civilization.
The origins of mankind, you know, just some slight conversation, some
Yeah.
like how's the weather type deal. What is that called? Small talk. Some small talk.
Small talk, just the birth of mankind. No, I don't think there's an easy way to get into dates. But if we start all the way at the beginning, we're starting 200, 300,000 years ago. You know, we start with the first humans, not yet Homo sapiens, but developing into Homo sapiens. They're in the eastern part of Africa. They're moving up towards the Middle East, what we call the Middle East today. They're starting to move towards Southeast Asia. It's weird because whenever you look at the maps, map in. I'm slapping a map in. There's gonna be a map here now. Yeah. When you look at the maps, like people colonized across Southeast Asia. It's hard to paint a picture right now without looking.
Right.
I'm gonna start
pull the little board right here, like the classroom. Yeah.
They went across. This is a nonsensical point. Why am I bringing it up? They didn't populate in India first. Like they went across India and just forgot to go down like along the coast. It's dumb. Why did I bring it up? But we start 200,000 years ago with people, and the world was, and for the most part, for the most important part, different from what it is today. Because at this point, we're talking about, what's it called? The Pleistocene period. I'm butchering that. And it's the last ice age. That's basically the way to put it.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. And so at this point, what I find fascinating about this is that the water level was 400 to 500 feet lower than what it is right now.
Right.
And this was for a long time until about 14,000 years ago. So just to put that into perspective, like we're in Houston for our viewers. The port of Houston, most of it is like 10 to 20 feet deep.
Right. So that was just land. Like that there was no water there.
There was no port of Houston.
Like Galveston wasn't an island yet.
Yeah, it's ridiculously different. Like an even bigger, crazier point is that everybody knows the map of Europe, and you have England, the English Isles as their own little island.
Right.
That wasn't there. Like, and then there's a landmass, and then there's Finland and Norway above that are reaching down towards Europe.
Yeah.
That wasn't there. That was all land. That was one giant mass of land.
And then as the water rose, it just started just like the tippy top of these little land masses. Remained.
Canada, North America was connected to Russia through the North Pole.
Right. The Bering Strait.
No. Over the North Pole as well. Yeah. And see, here's where you mentioned the Bering Strait. The Bering Strait wasn't a mass of ice.
Like we thought it was land, right? That's what you were telling me.
It was land, yeah. Like people just straight up walked across this plain where you had like giant mammoths and stuff.
Yeah.
Because as we were going back to how humans like left East Africa, they went up north. They established themselves throughout the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and then they started going further north. This is 50,000 BC, you know, so they've been 150 years in Africa, you know, just Stone Age, you know, people. And so 50,000 BC, they start moving out of Africa. They start moving up north. Different branches of humans start, you know, appearing throughout the world. You have the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens. Those are the most common ones. There's more, but I won't go into them because I'm not that smart.
We only cover the basics here, you guys.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about further than that. But you have those two civilizations, and, you know, they're not civilizations. They're a group of people. They kill each other and they're hunting each other out, and then they, you know, procreate, and, you know, Neanderthals are no more. There's still people that have Neanderthal blood, you know, Northern Europeans and that sort.
Right.
But going back to how they were leaving Africa, they kept going down Southeast Asia Then they climbed up the Asian coast, went up into Siberia. And at that time, Siberia was connected with Alaska through that landmass. You know,
Right.
there was 500 feet of water missing there. They crossed over. Now we're talking about 13,000 BC. And about 1,000 years later, you know, we have what's very debated right now in the geology fields. This theory of a mass flood. We do have established as a fact that the ice age ended during that time and
Right.
that the sea levels rose. But I'm very much like in love with an idea, and it's a theory right now that keeps that's continuously turning into fact as more evidence appears of this. And I keep spinning around the topic of it, but it's basically the idea of a cataclysmic event that happened because of a series of two meteors that came down into the earth up
Right.
towards the Greenland area and basically ended the ice age.
Yeah,
So-
and like greenhouse gases, all this stuff, everything melted and like the ocean rose.
Yeah.
And it's mentioned in like Noah's Ark and things like that, just like a
Yeah.
big giant flood, but it just came out of nowhere by the grace of God. But like what caused it? What actually caused it?
Yeah, so in the Abrahamic religions, we have this idea, like you were saying, of Noah's flood. And for a long time, the theory was that this was an event that happened in the Black Sea. It spilled over into the Mediterranean and covered a lot of the lands that are, you know, basically what the Bible is based on, the areas that the Bible is based upon.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing that it's far more likely for this to have been occurred due to that mass flood. Because even here in America, like in some central parts of America, you have these mounds where you have what's the remains of waves hitting the top of some of these mounds
Right.
that are far above the water level. You know,
Yeah.
you have what's 50-foot waves and it's a ridiculous idea to think about. It's
Yeah,
it's basically what we see whenever you watch what's that movie? Well, all the end of the world movies.
Yeah, they all have like a big flood or
yeah,
a
a
big
giant
yeah.
wave. San Francisco.
Tomorrow.
Say again.
Was it 2010?
The End of
Or was that
Tomorrow?
an ice thing?
2010. You're talking about 2012?
2012, yeah, some
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
yeah. It was like a
2012 had it?
giant flood, yeah.
2012 had it, and a aircraft carrier crashed into crashed into the White House, which is the goofiest idea ever. And then San Francisco, San Andreas Fault. San
Yeah.
Andreas Fault came up with a crazier idea, which is to have people racing this wave out of the San Francisco Bay
How do you race nature?
in boats.
You're the rock, you know.
Yeah, I mean, most boats go like 30 miles per hour. If you have a very good boat, it'll go 50. And if you have like a super high class boat, specifically for speed, it'll go 70, 80, you know?
Right.
But that's just getting into the physics of San.
We don't like boats here.
It's a goofy idea. Oh, and then even in that one, they stole the idea from 2012 where they
Yeah.
have one of those commercial freighters smash into the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's goofy. It's goofy. But we have this idea of a mass flood.
Right.
Right. And so it came across, it wiped out a bunch of what we can assume were, you know, just hunter-gatherer tribes. But 2,000 years after this event, after the end of the Ice Age, the water level is now higher. We start finding in 1990, we start finding the remains of a city that was established in that 11,000, 10,000 BC period, which is Göbekli Tepe. And Göbekli Tepe, the part that we found so far, and it's presumed that there's a lot more that's still being dug out. It's just expensive because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
It's assumed that what we have found so far is a temple. Now, we don't have the establishment of civilizations until 3000 BC.
Until like the Egyptians and all of that stuff.
Yeah, you have some stuff earlier that's like 4000 BC. I think it's like Stonehenge.
Right.
Again, like 4000 BC was assumed to be the Sphinx. And then in 3000 BC, you have, what was it, Pharaoh Khufu
Right.
and his pyramids. But so you have this 11,000 BC to 3000 BC period, 8,000 years, where you have a sophisticated construction and then nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
And so there's a theory proposed by journalist Graham Hancock and geologist, I'm pretty sure he is a geologist, Randall Carlson, that insinuates that this civilization was possibly built not by... There's something that it was built by hunter-gatherers, because we don't find any tools that you would need in order to have a civilization.
Right.
In the area. Then again, it hasn't been thoroughly dug out yet. But they're assuming that this civilization was built with the assistance of some sort of race that had information on how to build these civilizations.
It doesn't make sense that they would have just out of nowhere done it themselves. Like they didn't have the technology for it.
Not that they didn't have the technology, but to build a monument, you need to have an excess of food. You need to have an abundance.
Right.
One of the main points of why civilizations were established in 3000 BC, I'm always doing this because these are shaking numbers.
Right.
One of the reasons is because they started establishing farming, and it was mainly in Mesoamerica, Indus River Valley civilizations, Mesopotamia, and Egypt. And there's a couple more. I'm missing some. Again, I'm a fool. I don't know what I'm talking about for the most
These are just
part.
like 300 BC ish.
This is high level review. You don't need this to pass your exams.
Yeah. Please don't use this to pass your exams.
I'm gonna feel guilty. You're a fool if you're using me to pass an exam. But so you need an abundance of food in order to have specialized careers within your tribe. Mm-hmm. You can't have a builder because all of your men are focused on hunting.
Right.
And so we know that this didn't happen for 8,000 years until the Egyptian era. And then again, even then it's shaky because the Sphinx is now showing signs that it went through water erosion that could have only been possible through torrential rains. Mm-hmm. And in Egypt, in that part of Egypt, this would only be in 7,000 or 8,000 BC.
Right.
So even then, you have Göbekli Tepe, 10,000 BC. You have the pyramid, the Sphinx, 7 or so thousand BC. And then you have, what is Stonehenge? Stonehenge was the same time as the pyramids.
Right.
3000 BC. So you have these two items that are way out of line, and Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock's theory, which if you want to find out a bit more about it, it's in the JRE podcast. They had a couple of debates and a couple of presentations there. But you have this theory that these people were assisted in building Göbekli Tepe by an antediluvian civilization. Antediluvian meaning before the Great Flood.
Okay.
Yeah. And it would be a pretty ridiculous coincidence as to why we don't have any proof of these civilizations.
Right.
And it would make sense if we didn't have proof of these civilizations, because if they had the scope of mind to be able to have farming and have an abundance of food, or just be hunter-gatherers that have an ability to build stuff, why can't we find the stuff they built?
Right.
When during the Ice Age, the land masses were, the coastlines were way farther out. You're talking about 500 feet of water are gone, so your coastlines are further out. a lot of early civilizations are built upon, rivers, are built upon, coastlines.
Yeah, just bodies of water.
Yeah, bodies of water. If you had a civilization that was somewhere in the area of what we call the Bering Strait,
yeah, and then the water levels rose, all of that is just gone.
All of that would be underwater.
Yeah.
And not just underwater, water erosion is far harsher than
all of that is
climate.
Basically sand now.
It would cost too much money to find it.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even know what you're looking for. We do have a lot of deep scans of the ocean. We have that technology.
Right, but we still have only explored maybe 5%, if
Yeah,
that,
less.
of the ocean.
We don't know what we're looking for. And this is all just to confirm one theory that just so happens to fit perfectly in the puzzle.
It's completely plausible that that's the case.
It's completely plausible. And then again, it's a theory, because we don't have fact. Going back to the nature of theories is that, you have the theory of relativity, you have the theory of something. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It means that the numbers make sense. We just don't have
like a hard fact saying this is exactly how that works. Like end of story.
We don't have a means to prove that.
And they're ever changing. Like every few years, somebody makes a new discovery that completely changes the way we look at something.
That's right.
So that's why we keep them as theories. I guess also to give us the wiggle room to be like, oh, wait, never mind. Like, it's this.
Yeah, I mean, Big Bang is a theory. The Big Bang it's a pretty big theory. And most of the scientific community agrees with it.
Right. They accept that as like fact, but until we discover something else.
The only reason that we don't, say that it's fact is because there's no possible way of confirming it.
Right.
That's simply it. Although there is, well, then again, it's again more theory because we do find the evidence of an expanding universe. And that's a whole rabbit hole for another conversation.
Oh God.
So
space.
Space. Yeah. Something else we don't know jack about that we're talking about with emphasis. But I'm fascinated with this idea that you had the civilization and throughout the world, the people that were in those areas, throughout the world, you have these myths and legends about cities under the water.
Atlantis being a big one.
Yeah, great imaginations, beyond modern era standards.
Right. But the more you think about it, the more you're like, that would have made sense to have a highly advanced civilization living on the coast of a body of water, and then a big flood hits and all of that is just gone, And how are we going to find it? We're not really going to put that much effort into finding something.
Yeah. And again, it's a theory, and this one is like heavily debated. There's people that call Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, what's it called? Pseudoscience.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lord.
That's that little tag that they got to put in front of you to discredit you, period. It doesn't help that. Randall Carlson he's mainly a journalist. Although he has done his research, on the matter. But that's beyond the fact. You have the Sphinx again, 7,000, 8,000 BC. That's another theory proposed by them and a couple of other geologists. And then you have what we have as fact. We have Egypt.
Right.
We have the pyramids. We have the construction, of these giant things that even then, we debate on how it was made. Aliens. Woo. Oh my God. I used to be so into the Ancient Aliens show.
Yeah. All the books I read in elementary school about like the different things that could have helped them build it and how did they get just one block across, let alone like however many it took to build it. Because each one is like a whole person and a half tall, isn't it? Like they're not
every
easy to
stone,
climb.
Like,
every single
ridiculously big.
It's a brick, but it's like the size of a car.
Like it would be hard to build that today.
Right, exactly.
With the tools we have. Things like the Sphinx, those weren't super. Well, they were super crazy to build, but they carved the Sphinx out of its location.
Right. So
they
that's a
didn't-
little bit
yeah.
easier.
That's
Not
different.
saying that it's like, oh, that was nothing, but it definitely seems more.
We're definitely downplaying it.
Yeah, it seems more, I guess, realistic
Plausible.
in our little minds than seeing a civilization, no matter how many people there were, build a whole pyramid out of bricks the size of vehicles.
Then again, when you just throw slaves at it, when you just throw human suffering
Apparently,
at
that's
it.
how we do things. Get another person to do it.
Oh, he's dead from exhaustion? Okay, Bill, come here.
You're going to hell.
All right, let's
Lord.
go. You know, till you die. Let's go. How many people we got in the reserve? That's how,
But yeah, that's just the way it was.
that's how it was. That's how it was for thousands of years.
Right.
But you have these ideas, and personally, I've just come to because the main proponent one of why people say that it's aliens is like, how is this the only structure that is still, you know, a remnant of those times?
They just happened to build it in a good enough spot that the water didn't get to it when it rose.
I mean, aside from that, I'm sure they built other things.
And right.
But what's gonna last the most time? You know, a pyramid, of course.
Yeah.
It's
And it's not the only one. It's just one of the most talked about. Because like
Yeah.
Machu Picchu is talked about too.
Yeah.
Like there's few here and there. And there's some we haven't even found in the rainforest, like more across the desert. Like there's little things we're still finding even on land, you know?
Yeah,
Now imagine all the things we haven't found like in the ocean.
There's a lot of new discoveries going on today about the Olmecs in the Amazon, because they're through the unfortunate deforestation that's going on, they are happening upon like canals and man-made, you know,
Right.
waterways, which signal of a civilization that must have been there at that time.
Right. That is so sad though. Like, I think it would have been better to just leave it alone. Like, I'd rather not know what was there than
Never
have
find
people
out?
tear a whole like ecosystem down just to see and just to make money off of it. But
It's-
that's besides the point.
It's unfortunate that the forests are being torn down, but then again, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like today's age, like this is the most forest that has ever, like the earth is covered right now with more ecology than it has like in previous periods of civilization.
No, it's not.
I can find
That doesn't. No.
I can find something.
There's
on it
no
because-
way. We're expanding at rapider rates than ever. Like, we are literally burning forests down. Like,
I might be talking on my ass, but
cue the map of just fire. Tell me there's more trees now.
California, man.
California.
Swear. Acres.
And then was it last year, or maybe we're just not talking about it anymore when people were burning down the rainforest?
The Amazon, yeah,
the Amazon.
the actual Amazon. Mm-hmm. That's a very difficult position for.
You vote. Are there more trees now or less trees?
That's a very difficult position for Brazil, though, because they made a kind of a good point there.
What?
Incidentally, he was angry about the internet. The president of Brazil was angry. President, governor, I don't know what they call him.
Right.
The king of Brazil, the emperor, grand emperor.
I think it's a democracy, or at least some kind of like government similar to ours. I think it's a president.
Okay, the grand dragon of Brazil was arguing because the global community was chastising him for not doing anything about the fires. But he said that the people that are chastising, like the U.S. and other developed countries, like we tore our forests down to build farmland and stuff.
Right.
Like-
So who are you to say anything? It's just go. Oh, but your trees are greener, so we would like to save those.
Yeah, he's the Grand Dragon's just doing it at the wrong
But
time.
that doesn't make it okay. Like, two wrongs don't make a right. Just like, well, you guys did it. It's like when you're arguing with your parents about like, well, he did it. You let him go out, so why can't I go out?
Obviously.
Like, it's not the same thing.
Obviously, it doesn't make it okay, but it maybe tells us that it's not our place to chastise him.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe some of the indigenous.
If it was up to me, we'd just all live in dirt. We'd all live in huts. We don't need this.
I don't think you'd like that.
I don't think I'd like it either.
I'm a huge proponent of capitalism and
air conditioning
and industry. And is it hot in here or?
No, I was kidding.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a hint.
modern. No, it's a modern commodity.
Necessity, not commodity. It's a necessity.
What's a commodity then? What would you?
Hot water, running water.
No.
Plumbing.
That's necessity. What's commodity?
That's not necessity. That's a commodity. Not everybody has it. You don't need running water.
Define commodity. That's what I need.
Like comfortable. Commodity comes from the word comfortable, like something that you don't need, but it's nice to have. Like we don't need AC. We've never needed it, but we're comfortable with it. So much so that we can't live without it anymore. We like overheat. We don't need running water, but it's just so much easier to have it.
No, we need running water.
No, we don't.
We need stagnation builds disease. We need running water.
Okay. We don't need artificially running water, like plumbing. Okay, let's talk. Like you don't need that. It's
yes, you very much do.
How do you think we've lived like this long? Like you can go camping, you can go whatever, and you can live theoretically. You can live just fine with no plumbing. You just bury your shit. Like you do. You wash your hands in the river. Like technically it's running water, but it's not plumbing.
That works when your civilization is small. When your group of people is small. When you have a group of...
I guess you're right, because even ancient civilizations had their own version of like a sewer system.
Egypt had its own version of a sewer.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
but you don't need air conditioning. It's a luxury.
Even though it wasn't even pretty back in Egypt, they just had it. They had it floating down canals like sides of the street, like
right.
Oh, there's a turd.
It's just like out of sight, out of mind.
No, it's not out of sight. Like you had it next to the street. Like there that goes. You know.
It was functional.
He ate corn.
Till we decided to put him underground, and they were like, now we don't see it at all.
Yeah, there you go. It's not there. It's definitely not the water
now
we're drinking. Now
it's floating under us. All the water in the world is the same water that was here like thousands of years ago. Like we're constantly recycling water. There's no such thing as like pure, untouched water. Like we're drinking the same water. It's cleaned by like us. Like we've cleaned it as much as we can. But like we're drinking the same things that dinosaurs drink. Like it evaporates. It goes through its cycle. It cleans itself naturally.
Yeah.
But it's all the same water.
I find that crazy that that earth itself was just like a dry rock, and then through the the many meteors that hit the earth before, it's
one of them had a drop of water, and then it's like oof.
It's like boom. Okay, we got
trees.
we got hydrogen now.
Hydrogen.
Be on your way, Earth. That's crazy. Did you see that the moon? They found water in the moon.
In our moon?
Yeah, in our moon.
Inside of it? I had this weird...
No, not inside of it. Like in a crater.
Oh. I always
thought... On the sunny side.
Really?
Yeah. And the ridiculous thing is how they announced it. They were like, she's wet.
2020 for y'all. There you go.
Yeah, that was literally the headline.
Proud. Oh my God.
I think it was on the news like 2 days ago, maybe.
That's so funny. I used to think back in my younger days that there was like aliens or something living right under the core of like the moon or Mars. I was like, well, it might be too cold for them, like because they don't have an ozone layer, but what if they go right under, like if they're in caves and it's like a whole tunnel in there
inside of the moon?
Yeah, inside of the moon or inside of Mars, and there's just like water running in there and all that stuff, and you can't see them because they're underground. And I just like convinced myself. I made up a lot of theories when I was younger, and I was just like, yes, that's a fact.
Same. During my Asian aliens phase, when I was obsessed with that. I mean, I'm talking about, I was maybe like 10 or 11, 12, 13. I had this theory that the entire moon was like, so we can only see one side of the moon.
Right.
That's a fact. You know, the moon rotates at the same velocity that it's
right. So we never see the dark side.
We never see the dark side of the moon. And obviously we see it now because, you know, satellite images and all that. But I used to have this theory that we never saw the dark side of the moon. And it turns out that the moon was just like, it was like, it looked like a ball, right?
Yeah.
But behind it was like this gigantic telephone, like not telephone, telescope, and like cities and stuff that came out of it. We just couldn't see it
Like
because of the perfect angle.
It was like the aliens were hiding right like under our noses.
Yeah, the
That's
moon
so
is like
funny.
a paper mache false shell, like a half bowl. You know.
Oh my god.
I mean, ancient aliens does
That's
that to you.
so funny.
It's goofy. It's when you start getting into conspiracy theories.
I feel like everybody's gone through that phase through like late elementary to like middle school where you just want to find out all the weird stuff about the world. Like I remember reading books on witches, reading books on the Bermuda Triangle. That was a big one. Bermuda Triangle was huge.
Oh yeah.
Middle school was huge for Bermuda Triangle. What else? The pyramids, yeah, and the Easter Islands, like all of these like really weird things I was super into. The Salem witch trials. I had like 7 books on like just witches and magic. I don't know. I just love like things that I couldn't explain. And planets.
you had witches and the supernatural arts. To me, it was aliens, like mainly.
Really?
I don't believe in witchcraft. I don't believe in supernatural.
But aliens.
But I mean, it's.
What's your stance on mermaids?
Mermaids. That's an interesting. I remember back in. I'm not gonna say a year because I.
At this point, we've established we don't know what year it is, what year it has been.
My sense of time and memory is terrible. But I remember that Discovery Channel or the History Channel or Planet Earth, whoever. Planet Earth isn't even a channel. Whoever came up with this documentary about mermaids, and that so they established it upon fact. Let's go back to history for a little bit.
Okay.
At one point in humanity, there was a super volcano that erupted. I don't know location. I'm not smart in these things. Here we are talking about them. But at some point, this volcano exploded, and the result of it ended up being with, just about the mass extinction of humanity.
Right.
Like we were down to like the thousands of humans left. And this documentary went into that. Oh, some of them escaped the tornado, the volcano by going into the ocean and becoming oceans people.
But you can't just like go into the ocean one day and be like, okay, this is where I live now.
It was ridiculous. And then they had this one veteran that worked in a submarine or something, or part of the commercial district, whatever. But the point is, he worked at a submarine, and then he saw one day something humanoid pass by one of the vision the windows. Let's call them windows. They're not windows, but let's call them windows. Past the ship or something.
Yeah.
And so that's what they based themselves off of. Then they had this ridiculously CGI'd
like a what's it called, reenactment of what happened or whatever.
No. Then they went into these 2 kids that were recording one day at the beach, and they found this rock and then this thing that was like leaning on the rock. Yeah, like caught up on something. Yeah, Discovery was it? Okay, yeah. And so they walk up to it. Yeah, and so they walk up to it, and this like stupidly CGI thing like looks up, and the camera's like, oh, and turns away.
Oh, like just to add drama to the show. Come on. Oh Lord. No, it discredits the mermaids.
But they passed it off as fact. And it was the most ridiculous thing. And so now we have a huge portion of our people that think that, oh, they're real. They gotta be real.
You don't think they could be real though? I don't think it's mermaids in the sense of like Ariel and Disney mermaids.
No, of course not.
I think it's more like fishes. Like they
looking fishes.
Yeah, like mostly like if you ever watch Harry Potter, most people have like one of the it was like these trials, the Goblet of Fire. One of the trials was like they had to go underwater and like get their friend or whatever, and there was these like mermaid looking
like
things,
octopus human people.
No, they were like mermaids, but they had like these. They were mostly like fish. They had like gills and like fish-looking faces,
Yeah.
and like that's what I imagine mermaids to be. You know, like I don't think they're pretty and like siren songs and whatever. I think they're like vicious, like half fish, whatever's that probably live in the bottom of the ocean or
Yeah.
something. Because like we said earlier, we've only explored maybe 5% of the ocean, and it's very plausible that the same way we had like Neanderthals and humans and like different subspecies of everything, it might not be like, oh, a mermaid has a human trait of us or whatever, but there could be something else down there, you know. And there's like, I feel like everything is rooted in a tiny sliver of truth, you know, like
Yeah.
like
Myths are perception of the
yeah,
truth.
like no lie is 100% a lie. Like it's based off of something. So like that's what makes me think I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, for sure they're real. Like I've seen them, you know, like blah blah blah. Like my grandma, blah blah blah. No, but like I do
Yeah.
think it's entirely possible to have mermaids. You know, like
Yeah.
just not in the sense of, like, not in the way we think.
I mean, I kind of follow the idea that they ran upon what was it? Well, what's that animal that keeps
The manatee.
yes, manatees.
And they think it's like, oh, it looks like a human at night or something, so they're just like, oh my god, like that's a mermaid,
It has
and they
the
ran on it.
tail. It has the tail that
Yeah.
you would assume. And whenever they are just, standing by,
They kind of look like a person.
it
from
looks
far
like
away.
a person just, standing, leaning upon a rock,
Yeah.
Not their face, obviously. These
Yeah.
sailors were probably drunk, but it would make more sense to me
That it's a manatee that they confused, and then the stories just spiraled into what we know today.
it makes sense to me more than that there's a civilization of mer
Right.
people that live in, the oceans.
Yeah.
It's like every time a carcass, pulls up upon a beach.
Or like
and-
washes up on shore.
Yeah, but I said pulls up.
Beep, beep.
It like rolls up. It's like, what up? No, every time a carcass, like you had what's the name of the Angalo monster or Aguila monster or whatever.
The Loch Ness monster?
No. I'm talking about one of these carcasses that pulled up.
Okay.
I kept saying pulled up. That washed up on the beach.
Yeah.
And it looked like a doll. It had the structure of a dolphin, but it had hair. Now something that does happen to bones in the water, under very specific conditions, is that it may be algae.
Alga.
Alga.
Yeah, maybe algae that grows on it and it just makes it look like
It
it's
might
hair.
be algae or some of the proteins of the bones,
Right.
deteriorate in a certain type of way. But that makes a lot more sense.
But you're so
than,
quick to debunk things. I'm like, I think ghosts are a thing. I think mermaids can be a thing. I think
mean-
aliens are probably a thing because we are not the
There.
only freaking planet in the whole universe that can hold life. There's like millions of suns and planets at the same distance as we are to our sun. And
Yeah.
like this isn't it might be a rare occurrence of us having life and us evolving into what we are now, but I don't think we're the only ones.
But rare means that
They have us on timeout. I saw it on TikTok.
rare means that there's a percentage of probability that happened. And so if you have a percentage of something, if you have 0.00000.0000001% chance, that means that you need to have, what's that? 1, 10, 100. That means that you need to have 1 million life-bearing planets to have the next one. Means that there is
Okay.
a chance that.
But
that
it's not the biggest. But also how we
What I'm
are
saying
a
is-
giant
universe. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that no matter how small the percentage, at some point the chances are that there is going to be a new one. And so
Right.
I heavily believe in aliens. I
So
do
by
believe in
that
alien
same
life.
chance, you believe in mermaids.
At a lesser
I just want him
chance.
to admit it. But yes.
At a
But
lesser
yes, right?
chance
But yes.
than others.
But yes.
There are more logical reasons that we can come down to.
But yes. A soft maybe.
If something insane would have to happen for me to believe that. Oh, wow, okay, it pulled up and its name's Larry. Like, what?
Swinging and banging.
Yeah,
Pulled
yeah.
up.
It-
Live on shore.
It has the
Oh my
ocean
God.
Ferrari. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
I find it very hard to believe versus, what it could be.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my same problem with Ghost and the supernatural. Like before recording, we were messing with the audio and stuff. This is just for context as an example. The audience didn't hear it. I might put it in,
Maybe.
Yeah, because it didn't record. It didn't record. Sorry. But while we were fixing the audio, we heard another voice. Now there's 3 people in this room, and that voice wasn't any of ours. And so we immediately were like,
Yeah, we looked at each other like, did you hear it? Yes. Did you hear it? Yes.
yeah, we looked at the cameras. We were like, what was this? And we came to the conclusion, the more logical conclusion, that it could have been, one of our phones or Siri
Right.
or the directions talking.
Right. Since my phone was on my lap, I might have clicked on the little home button. I have an iPhone, so the home button might have had Siri talking in the background, and we just thought it was something else.
Added on by the idea that maybe one of you took direct like Google Maps or something to get here.
Right.
So it's fully within the realm of reason that it was a phone.
But don't call me
Now-
crying if a little girl is laughing in the middle of the night. Because you don't have you don't have an iPhone.
I'm just gonna call you to apologize and say
Ghosts are real, and also I changed my stance on mermaids.
I have to finally say that ghosts are real. But you know me, and it's gonna take a lot to prove to me that ghosts are real.
Oh,
There's
Lord.
just, a lot more logical reasons. This one time I was here, it was night, and in my kitchen I have a water tank where you fill it up. It's like 2 gallons or something, and you serve yourself water, right?
Right.
And it's leaning over the sink so that you can pour yourself water. It spills, it falls into a sink. And one night I was just in my room doing whatever, and it fell, and it caused a huge bang. And I came all the way out here, and I checked the cameras and stuff, and you can see in the cameras that it just tips over and falls. Now, logically, it would make sense for it to fall after some time if it's sitting at the wrong angle.
But was it leaning mostly over? Like you wouldn't have left it hanging over something. It would.
Therein lies the uncertainty, because I don't remember how it was sitting before I went into my room. It could have very well been sitting wrong, and I just was, not paying attention.
Do you believe in duendes?
Duendes? Not at all.
Duendes literally means like elves, right?
Elves, yeah.
But
Gnomes.
or gnomes.
In America, it's gnomes, yeah.
These little, at least in my culture, Colombian culture, as I've learned it from my grandma, it's like these little creatures that like will take shiny things or will hide your stuff if you're not careful, or if you're just like, I don't know, they just like to mess with you. So like when I lose stuff that I know I put in a certain spot, I'm like, wow, like se lo llevaron, like they took it, like how dare you?
For reference for the viewers, the closest thing you can probably think of is maybe like the old 90s movie Leprechaun. Yeah, that would be the closest thing, just
like
for
they
reference.
take your stuff and hide it. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if I could 100% believe in it, but I know there's been times I've lost something that I know I put it in a certain place, and then I just never see it again. And it happens with my favorite things, like things that I know I take good care of. They're just like gone randomly. And I'm like, wow, I angered the spirits or something. I did something to piss somebody off. And I'm just like, just give it back. Okay. And like, it just never comes back, and I never see it again, and I never know what happened to it.
Yeah. I mean, we attribute like kind of fantasy tales to things that we
So,
can't explain.
I guess. Yeah,
Because
that's
you
true. It's
can't
human
explain.
nature. It's the whole reason why, like, well, no, let's not go there.
Okay. All right. You're going to a religion?
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't mind. That's my fight with religion, because
right, because you think
I
it's a
have
fantasy thing that people not made up, but like,
saying it's a fantasy thing is kind of insulting. I wouldn't say it's like a fantasy thing. I'd say it's more of an answer to a question that we can't solve.
right, especially with younger generations. and civilizations that were like, oh, it's raining, it must be this, because at the time they didn't have this certain like scientific scope to really realize like, oh no, it's just the clouds, the cumulus, whatever clouds.
Yeah, relative to the knowledge that we should have, even the knowledge of the brain today, it's very young. We have a child's understanding of what our brains are made of and how our brains work. You know, that's the whole thing with dreams. You know, because my firm belief, and again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a brainologist. I don't even know the word for people who study brains. I'm an accountant. I believe in numbers and statistics and probability. Okay. When it comes to brains, you have so many chemicals working in your brain. When it comes to dreams, in sleep, REM sleep, all those stages, you have different chemicals working in your brain. Mm-hmm. And that's how you develop dreams. You know, sometimes you have blood rushing to the memory side, and sometimes you have blood rushing to the emotional side. And so your dreams are emotional mixed with memories of, you know, back in my hometown and so forth.
Right, and faces you've seen and things. And that's why you never dream about something you haven't seen before, because your brain needs material to work with to build that like world in your head.
If all throughout your day you're worried about something, then your brain and in your dreams, it's more than likely gonna come out, you know. And that's because that part of your brain has been working, and so
it's part of your problem solving like skills as a human. I don't know where I read this, that you tend to dream about the things that you're worried about to try to solve them. Like that's why we say just sleep on it, you know, like if you're faced with a decision, they're like, just sleep on it, and in the morning you can make the decision, because your brain during the 8 hours or 7 hours or however many hours you sleep, it tries to configure the different ways that it can solve this subconsciously. It might not tell you the answer like straight up, like, oh yeah, buy this car or do this thing, but then you wake up and you're suddenly like, okay, I think I know what I want to do.
And this is not to downplay religion, because I do understand that religion plays a very major role in where we are today, civilization. You know, our advancement in, you know, technology comes from religion. It's played a backbone in people's ability to go to sleep at night, not worrying about being eaten by a lion. You know, it helps you. But going back to the point of logic versus assigning anything else to what we understand, you know, the questions that we can't solve. In ancient Egypt, they assigned their own theology to things. And, you know, in Greece, they had the Minotaur, with, you know, a beast mixed with a person to solve, you know, these kinds of issues that they couldn't understand. And that's something we're gonna touch on a later point.
Right.
But I just don't believe. Oh, here's what I was gonna say. When I was, whatever. I'm not gonna say how old, because I don't even remember. So I come from a very religious, very traditional family. Mm-hmm. And, you know, at one point in our life, like we were at church like 3 days out of the week, you know, we were very involved. And so a lot of the beliefs of the church were ingrained in our household. Right now, you know, right in front of me, we have this cross and, you know, all these different things, you know, prayers and stuff. When I was very little, we had a period where things in this household were kind of stressful in a spiritual way. Like we had, my family had an idea that there might be what you might call a haunting or some sort of, you know, spirit taking its hold here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one night, I do remember that I wasn't feeling well at that time either, you know. One night I got out of my room and I walked over. I was maybe 13. I was very young. Mm-hmm. But I was still young enough that whenever I had nightmares or stuff like that, I'd go to my parents' room, you know.
Right.
And so that night I got up, just like in the movie Paranormal Activity. I walked into my parents' room and stood by the side of their bed for quite a while, until my parents woke up and saw me just standing there. Mm-hmm. Now, we do have prove that a lot of the times mental issues were confused with, you know,
like, oh, they're
problems of
possessed or
demons.
they're whatever. Yeah.
You had a lot of people that underwent exorcisms when all they had was, you know,
like a
psychotic
psychological
break.
problem.
Yeah. When they had seizures, when they had, you know, that sort of thing. If
But
you
not always.
not
For it to be a whole church like department of just like exorcisms, like, and I mean the church. We can talk about the church
again, we're gonna go into the church on another point. Yeah.
But like my main point is like for so many people to believe in one thing, and not even just Catholic or Christian, but just like in other religions, like there's talk about like there being a bad entity that can like possess or do bad things or influence like human nature or whatever.
And make you sick.
I guess it's like
not, you know.
Yeah, it's like a fine line between.
It's throughout spread. This has happened throughout the world because throughout the world people
everybody
have
gets
gotten
sick, everybody dies,
Yeah.
everybody has mental illnesses.
And everybody looks for an answer to it so that
Yeah.
it doesn't happen again. And that night, that was the assumption that
Right.
there was something that possessed me that night.
But for something to just like last so long, like how long have humans existed and we still have some of the same beliefs? Like,
Oh, in terms of time, you're talking about 3000 BC to now. It's nothing. Humans have been on this earth from 300,000 BC.
right.
Like you're
but
talking.
that's still a long time.
It's
I mean,
a ridiculously long time. It's long
but
enough.
not in the scope of how long the earth has existed.
It's long enough for us to scream whenever we're in danger because screaming alerts other people from our
Right.
tribe to come in. You know, it's long enough for us to, if you're sleeping, you're more cognizant to somebody if they call to you with a high pitched voice rather than a low pitched voice.
right.
Because we have that inborn instinct. If you speak to a dog or if you speak to a baby or if you speak to other animals that have evolved with us, they have a greater ability to hear things and be more aware of things that have a higher tone of speech. Because we got to take care of babies. When a baby cries, that's the sign of alarm.
Yeah.
You know, we have these instincts that have developed over millennia. And millennia, I always go to millennia.
Is it not millennia? It's not a million years?
Millennia? Is millennia a million?
It sounds like a million years.
Or is a millennia? Oh no, 1,000 is
no, a decade is 10.
a decade
A
is 10,
century is 100.
Millennia is
Million?
I'm ashamed. No, yeah.
It's like talking about like the gap between the Byzantines and then the Egyptians. It's like it goes from what were we saying, centuries to just like millennia, and we don't know
Yes,
what's in the
yeah.
middle.
And then our last history has been literally about weeks, you know. So,
Literally.
But we have these things like you were saying. Okay, it happens throughout the world, but people have been getting sick throughout the world, and you have had shamans and people that have a connection with the spiritual to be the doctors of the village that solve that problem.
Yeah.
You know, that night I walked over to my parents, right, and I stood by them like we had seen in Paranormal Activity. And so the next day we went to church. They did a bunch of prayers on me and stuff like that, and I was fine. Now, during that time, I did feel sick. It is definitely within reason that my brain felt something of a, let's not say a fever, but my brain felt something was wrong. And out of an instinct, got up and did the thing that I always did whenever I felt in danger.
Like went to your parents.
Went to my parents.
and they're like, oh my God, he's possessed.
And in an inability to speak, I just stood there. You know, that's the whole thing about in Mexican tradition. We have what's it called? Whenever you wake up and you can't move and you feel you
it's
have
sleep
somebody
paralysis in English.
The sleep paralysis monster.
Yeah.
Where sleep paralysis is a fully explained thing that happens
Right.
to our brains in our sleep.
But it's happened to people forever to the point where they're like, no, something was holding me down.
Yeah,
and so
it's-
many people have felt that it's like, no, yeah, you were possessed or something.
And
You
it's
did.
happened in civilizations where they didn't have an understanding of how your brain acts when you're asleep.
Right.
Even now we don't, fully. So they come up with this theory that explains it. And once you explain it, you sleep better, you know. Ironically. but that's my thing with religion and spiritualism. One occurrence I have not to this day been able to explain. And that's the only thing that maybe shakes me a slight bit. And that's one night, for the longest time, I've shared a room with my little brother. And brothers fight, you know, obviously. So I was angry at my brother one day, right? At this time, I was a reader. I was probably 14 or 15. And so I walked out of our room and I came over to the kitchen. And I sat down on the counter, like right there, you know,
Yeah.
I sat down and I opened my book and I had my book in front of me and I was reading it. And I heard something slam, like slam on the counter.
Yeah.
Something slam on the counter. And I just, you know, nothing was there. And I went back to my book, you know, but it stayed in my mind because
So like, what was it? And you couldn't find an explanation for it.
I mean, to this day, I can't. I mean, I'm never gonna find an explanation for it because the further I move from it, the less my memory of it.
Right.
But that's you know, it's things like that you just can't explain. Like just in the way that I described it as somebody, you know, slapping the counter. And in full, you know, recognition of my environment and everything that goes on in that kitchen, it could very well have been a million things that I'm attributing to a hand slapping a counter, you know. And I'm never going to be able to explain that, but that's my one
I'm
instance.
glad you've had that experience, because then you can't 100% shit on like supernatural beliefs, because you're like, but I've had this one thing.
I've had this one experience, but I'm sure if I look deeper into it, I could explain it. Like there's
no way.
Gotta be something.
There's no way.
The laws of science don't allow for it to not be explained.
There are no laws of science. They're theories. Full circle, y'all. Full circle.
Gravity is a law of science, okay? We have a full...
Gravity is a construct. We live in a simulation. Didn't you hear?
Hey, some pretty smart people believe it, you know?
Yeah.
So, who knows?
I used to too. Oh, in the never released episode, or was it just something I was telling you?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
About me thinking that I couldn't see behind me.
In what episode?
I think I had said something, I can't remember if we were recording or not, about me thinking that when I was younger, because you know, you can only see like 180 this way. Like if you don't move your eyes, you can't see what's behind you. And so I thought everything behind me was being constructed like Matrix style. Like,
yeah, that was in the episode.
Yeah. And like, I mean, to this day, I'm just like, if I turn fast enough, I can see it.
Object permanence is what it was.
I never got past it.
You never got past it. You were 2 years old and we're like, you know. Oh, what age? It's like less than one, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, we attribute these crazy answers. I'm not gonna say crazy because again, that the value is faith. We attribute these answers to, you know, questions that we can't solve.
Right.
H.P. Lovecraft said that the oldest and deepest fear of mankind is fear of the unknown.
So we try to pretend that we know everything when we really don't know.
I mean, finding an explanation for it helps you sleep better.
Yeah, that's all it is.
When I came in to the house today, my shower curtain was on the floor. Like it had fallen off of the wall where I have it, you know.
Oh.
And I just attributed, my family must have come by, you know.
Did they come by?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Did you ask?
I didn't ask. But the simple fact that I attributed an answer to it helps me get past it. You know?
You're like, oh, whatever. But if you stay wondering, then it's going to bother you all day.
If they didn't pass, then like you were saying, logically, at some point, the pressure of the rail has to give, you know, at some point. Because at the end of the day, it's a calculation. It's a fight between the pressure of the rail against the friction of the wall and the slipperiness.
How long has it been there? unmoved?
Well, I change the shower curtain every once in a while. So
How long is every once in a while? Because my shower curtains, unless I pull them down, will stay there for like a year or two.
Well, it's one of those things where
You twist it to make it tighter.
You twist it to make it tighter. Yeah.
It's a tension rod.
Yeah, it's a tension rod.
The same thing is happening in my brother's house, and this one is one that I mock my mom for, but I shouldn't. And he has stairs in his house, and because he has a kid, we put a stair,
like a little rail or a kiddie gate.
a gate. And so you have the stair that is similar to the shower curtain, where you twist it to push it, right? And so this part that's supposed to be against the wall is up against a cylinder like this. And so right there, you're dealing with the calculation of the pressure that's being pushed up against the rail that, again, twists if you twist it.
Yeah.
And the ability of this rail to hold its position, not twist. Right there, the rail is pushing against itself, and it has to be pushing against itself at the perfect angle at 0.0, not 0.00001, for it not to eventually twist. You know?
Because then you can't see it, but it's like by less than a millimeter, just slowly sliding until it just like pops off.
Yeah.
And then you think it's like, oh my God, somebody pushed it. But it's really just like it was going to give eventually. It's just the rate of time it was going to take is just a lot longer.
Yeah. And
I
so,
understand.
And so what's happening in this specific situation is that the rail, after it slips, and I'm saying it slips, is that it ends up looking as if somebody was coming down the stairs and tripped, and it pushed it out of place. Yeah. And so right now, my mom has cameras all over the place, and she's looking.
She's looking for that person that went down the stairs.
And and we didn't hear the door open, so somebody must be in the house. And so it happened one night when I was there, and we went up and we checked the attic, we checked every room, every closet. Like, no, it's 100% more logical that this happened.
Slipped?
Yeah. Then that somebody was able to escape our search of the house.
Yeah, for it to happen so consistently.
And it's happened more than once
How
now.
old is the house?
Huh?
How old is the house?
2000.
Oh, it's new?
It's newish.
It's not like 19 somethings
It's
and then
not
they
old.
renovated
It's
it?
not old. It's not.
Oh,
it's
okay.
very new. Like this house is
I mean, people
old,
can
you
die
know?
in the 2000s.
Okay, so now if you're talking about people can die somewhere, I mean, people have died, and if your logic is that when people die they leave, or if they die under certain situations they leave a remnant or a ghost, or they stay in this realm, then how is the old world, meaning Europe, Africa, these places where people have lived in for literally 200 to 300,000 years, born and died, like, how is it not littered with ghosts?
How do you know it's not? You've never been there.
Again,
And also, there's a lot of witches and like curanderas and all this stuff in those older parts of the world for a reason. I don't know. You can tell the difference. This is where we don't see eye to eye, because he's like, no, there's an explanation. And I was like, no, it's witchcraft.
This is why
spirits.
this podcast has to be a balance of the left brain versus the right creative, imaginative brain.
My grandmother taught me not to mess with things I don't understand. I don't understand a lot of things, so I'm not going to negate them. Now, until I have proof that it doesn't exist. See, you need proof that it does exist. I need proof that it doesn't. Like, definitive proof that it doesn't. But there's always a little doubt, or like a feeling, or like something I've seen or heard or experienced myself that is like, oh, well, maybe it could be something else.
Yeah,
there's so much we don't know.
And there's a lot of stuff that you can test, like according to the legends or whatever.
Right.
But it's like the science of hypnotism. They're I don't want to say it's a cop out, but the point is that if you don't believe in it, then you're not gonna be able to get hypnotized. Like, you have to believe in it slightly to be able to hypnotize. It's like
I've always wanted to be hypnotized just to know if it was real, see what happens.
I mean, I don't believe in it, so I wouldn't be able to be hypnotized. That's the thing. Like, if I went to a hypnotist, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Yeah, and that's the thing about faith, and that's the thing about believing these things. Like, I want to buy a Ouija board, but
No.
See, y'all immediately said no, but y'all have no reasoning for it. Y'all just have the stories that no, the Ouija board is the way that you enter a devil.
My
into your
grandma
home
said no. We tried to draw one when I was little, and my grandma beat my ass. She was not having it. My little friends thought we could cut up a little circle and put some little letters on a paper. Our teacher caught us, and this is a Colombian Catholic
you did it in school?
Yeah, it was recess. Little Catholic school girls. I was like 5 years old, maybe 6. I don't know why I was messing with stuff this young, but the other girls were older. But I remember vividly because of the like whooping I got afterwards. He's like, no haces esas cosas. Like, you don't mess with that. Like,
Really?
yeah. And my grandma's just like, no, but she must have seen, or maybe it's just like the older generation. I don't know. But she instilled in me that you don't mess with that stuff.
I mean, I want to, but I wouldn't out of respect for my mother. Like, not just because of that. Because I knew that the second that I bought one, it would be hell in my household about, oh, now it's haunted. And now I can never
drag you to get baptized again.
Oh my God. Like, yeah.
Shower you in holy water.
Again, I come from a very
Repent.
religious family, you know. And so it's a lot of those things where I have a conflict in accepting, you know.
Right. I think I would try it out of curiosity, but like already alarm bells are ringing in my head. Like, don't do it. My ancestors, that's what I call my subconscious. Like, my ancestors said no. My ancestors said, don't touch that. Don't look at that. Don't go into stores with brujeria things. And then the other part of me is like, but why? Like, I want to see. Like, I want to see what it does.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
It's the only way to know.
To me, it's just cardboard, you know, and a little apparatus that for some reason has batteries. Why?
Batteries?
Yeah, they sell some Ouija boards that you put a battery in the triangle thing.
No, if it has batteries, then it's fake. That's telling you it's fake. It's supposed to be wood. It's supposed to be wood.
And you're supposed to trust that none of the other 3 people are.
Yeah. Or they say it's your subconscious moving it. That's the plausible.
That too, you know, there's a lot of things that we do without our, you know, our own consent.
God damn it.
It's a shaky thing, especially when you're talking about sleep.
But there's still so much we need to know.
I mean, I immediately devalue things that happen to people like right after they woke up or while they were asleep, or like
Right.
3 in the morning. Things always happen at 3 in the morning. It just so happens that 3 in the morning is when the average person.
Witching hour.
No. Okay.
It is.
Okay, that's witching hour. But it just so happens that is 3 in the morning is at a point when the average person is entering, you know, or
Like
switching
REM?
between sleep cycles, you know. So
You're more susceptible to like impressions. Like, you will see like a coat hanging. You're like, oh my God, I saw a person standing and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, we've all been little and like been scared out of our minds.
understand.
And our closet was open and a jacket kind of looked like a person, you know, and our brain like fed that like, okay, yeah, that is a person, you know, freak out, you know. It's
I've been there more than once. I've screamed for my
You
mom.
made a fort and there's a blanket under your bed and all of a sudden there's a monster under your bed.
No, I went to a quinceañera and I left. They gave us glow sticks to wear around our necks. And so when we got home, I took off my dress. I took off the glow stick. Forgot I put the glow stick around my hanger on my dress. And I put it in the closet. And the closet had a tendency to open randomly. So I was scared of it, but I knew like it just does that. But so it opened randomly, and then I saw 2 glowing eyes, and I screamed bloody murder. And I don't know, it was just the way it was laying. It just this 2 glowing red eyes. And I think we had watched like La Llorona the day before. Oh my God, when I tell you, my mom prayed over me. And then she goes to the closet to look, and she's like, "Ay, pendeja." And it's a freaking glow stick in her hand. You smack me around with the glow stick. Go to bed, okay?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in our brains at that time in the night, and so it just makes sense that you know, if you take a hallucinogenic, you know, like mushrooms or something like that, you know, DMT, whatever, it's not a lot of chemicals, but it's just enough chemicals for them to cause a minute change in your brain chemistry.
Right.
And that alone causes your brain to go all kinds of places. You know, just think about a shift in blood from one part of our brain to another. Like, that's gotta cause something. That's gotta cause, you know, you to think about or remember something or, you know, have a...
But there's so much we don't know. It's the same way that some animals can see like an array of colors that we don't even comprehend. It was like a lobster or something. Some kind of ocean, like crustacean, can see like colors outside of our wheel of colors. Yeah. And it's like
shrimp.
Even something as small as that, like if that's one thing that we can kind of explain that we can't see, we don't know.
Yeah, we wouldn't like our brain
We would never know. We
literally
can't comprehend
cannot
it.
comprehend it.
Exactly. So the same can be said for like spiritual thing, or it's not even for us. It might be spiritual, but maybe it's energies. Like, you know how they say like energy never dies. Like
Mantis shrimp.
energy can
Sorry.
never be. Yeah. Can neither be created nor destroyed, and that brings a lot of comfort to people who have lost loved ones, because it's like, hey, like we are made up of energy. We are energy. So when you die, where do you go? Like, and that's where you get all that stuff, because again, scientifically, they said energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Now we don't know where it goes, but you can make assumptions, like, and that's where we go to like, oh well, it goes to heaven, it goes to hell, it goes to whatever, you get reincarnated, it goes to the earth. But it just, like you said, it brings a lot of comfort. Like, it's a lot of good,
It's
like, ways
definitely-
for people to
yeah.
to explain and to sleep better at night.
Because otherwise you're living in a existential, you know, crisis at all points.
I think we've
Like-
all gone through that when we were younger too. I remember being
Yeah.
so sad for like a week because I just didn't understand.
Not a specific thing. You just didn't understand anything.
The question was why. That's it. Why with a period?
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. It's weird to reason, and that happened a lot in those early civilizations. I know we went on this way crazy
It's
tangent.
okay.
and
We brought it back. It's a little shaky.
at some point we were talking about Egypt.
Look, they had their own superstitious things too, okay?
Well, okay, so if we can step one foot into religion, just in talking about the theology of these early civilizations, you start to see the development of humankind of itself, like humankind's ability of itself. So the ancient Egyptians, and even close to the modern Egyptians, close to even to that, I mean, zero Cleopatra's era and stuff, you know. No, Cleopatra 40, 50 BC. You're talking about their gods were animal based, you know. They assigned
Somebody's here.
somebody's here. That's my dad. That's fine. Oh,
I got really scared. What were we talking about? Ghosts and you just walking the camera?
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Religion.
So the religion of these people were based on animals. They didn't have that much, you know, self-focus on man, you know, that they were assigning these powers to animals. Like, I'm not going to remember the names of them. Like the alligator that they assigned a god to. They had
Right, like something that I don't remember exactly, but I know like animals to associate with like water
Yeah.
or fertility or like the crops, the seasons,
yeah,
the whatever.
specifically
Yeah.
the crocodile, because that's my favorite visual of Egyptian era. It's the Crobus. No, I'm sorry.
We'll insert it here
Sorry,
somewhere.
Egyptologists. But they assigned this perception because at this time crocodiles were a far greater threat than at any point. You know,
Right.
that was their main, you know, issue. Crocodiles sneaking into the village in what was it, Old Memphis. You know, that was their problems. You know, and we move on past that towards the Greek era. You know, now, well, you're talking about Egyptians believing in animals in like 3000 BC. Now you're talking about Greeks 500 BC.
Right.
It's been some time. People have sat down and thought about it. You know, we do have the perception that the Greeks were very thought oriented. we get all of
where the arts, where everything comes from, the inspiration for countless of art movements and music movements, and just like
what we're doing right now. And this is a very, if you're a fan of the Socrates method of dialogue, like, you're not gonna like this, but this is a very raw form of Socrates where we're just asking each other questions to develop the truth,
Right.
to develop a reasoning. And so they had a more inner image of themselves. They saw themselves as more powerful than their environment, because at this point they were, already. And so their gods are men, their gods are human.
right.
Do you see what I mean?
You shift from like the animal where they were the ones that knew everything and
They were
could
in
do
charge.
everything.
Yeah, they
to like
worship.
humans
Yeah.
are at the top of the food chain, and therefore humans should be at the top of like the world. Like
And
they
so
control
at that point, you see a shift in ego. Like, you see them start to worship man, and not worship man, but worship the images of men. And who's
Right.
fighting these images? Who's fighting these gods? Who's the enemy to Zeus? These mythical creatures that were made up
Right.
of the dirtying of man. You have the mix of a minotaur
Right,
with
like-
man. This is impure now. You have
like the corruption
the
of humanity.
corruption. That's the perfect word.
Yeah.
And there's oh my god, any mention of these things like always brings me back to Bloodborne. And we gotta.
That is a whole episode.
Oh my god. Are you kidding me? A myriad of episodes like
Right.
Yeah. And I have something that we're gonna do for that.
Okay.
So, because that work specifically touches on a lot of themes. But going back to the human gods of the Greeks, you have them fighting. Their heroes fought Medusa, and they fought these different
Like hybrids.
impure humans mixed with the dirtiness of nature, with the dirtiness of
Right.
these creatures. They no longer worship these creatures because man at that point was greater.
Yeah.
Where did we went into the Egyptians? Well, I think this is a good stopping point.
Yeah, we ended in Greek mythology.
Yeah, let's
And
stop in
Greece.
Greece. Let's
Yeah.
stop in Greece. I think it's a suitable point, because we went from the beginning of humanization, human behavior, survivalism, all the way to what we have as the earliest modern
Right.
civilizations.
And that's where we start to see like the development kind of pick up speed.
Yeah, prior to this, prior to the Greek period, you do have war, but there's much more of an emphasis on war further on. So let's
Right.
pick that up on the next episode, because that has a lot more detail that we need to discuss.
Okay.
I think we went way past the hour that we wanted,
It's okay.
but
Fix it in post.
I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm not saying like that's goofy. That's
Bye.
peace out, swag.